Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate every single person who listens and subscribes. Now, let's get right into it. The Fed meeting just finished and guess what? As a surprise, nothing changed. The interest rate has stayed at 4.25 to 5%, which 97% of economists were predicting. Obviously, there was no change in this market because of the fact that everything was still solid. The numbers looked great, as Jerome Powell said. The only issue, he said, is that there are risks of higher inflation and higher unemployment due to tariffs. Now, at this moment, he said the outlook on tariffs has not changed and they don't know what to expect. So because of that, they said they're not going to be changing their stance anytime soon. Now, Jerome Powell, as I mentioned, he wants to take a wait to see approach because there is no clear indication on the data that the inflationary issues and the tariff issues have shown any effects on the economy because they did add 145,000 jobs in the last quarter and they are also battling inflation at 2.4%. So, he said tariff uncertainty is real because the tariffs on China are still 145% and 10% on most other countries. Now, as you know, Donald Trump, he changes the tariff very regularly. So we don't know how this is going to look in a month or a year from now. And so that is one of the reasons why he hasn't cut interest rates. The other thing, as I mentioned, was inflation. Inflation is still higher than their 2% market at around 2.4%. And he wants to really fight that inflation down. So he sees no indication from the jobless report or from the inflation data that he needs to cut interest rates at this exact moment. Now, for the last two portions, Jerome Powell did mention that it's a challenging scenario because he does not know the correlation between tariffs, slowing growth, and if that's going to create price stability and the employment goals that the feds want to assess to see how the economy is actually growing. And obviously, if they don't see the data proving that they need to cut interest rates, it doesn't look like Jerome Powell will. Another thing he did highlight is that the feds are completely independent of Donald Trump. So he will not make his decision based on what Donald Trump says or wants to do. He will make his decision on what is important during that time. And as I mentioned, the economy at the moment shows pretty strong growth, even if it went down on the last quarter for GDP growth. Because it's so small, he hasn't seen the actual effects of tariff. He is not going to make his decision again, like I mentioned. Now, the next Fed meetings are on June 18th and July 30th, and the rate cuts possibility for cut is 70%, 80%. However, I do think that is high. The two things to note, as Jerome Powell said during this press conference, is he wants to see if job growth slowed down and if inflation goes up. Those two reasons would cause him to cut interest rates. However, if inflation stays high, it will possibly not have any sort of rate cuts. So one thing to remember, guys, is regardless of the decision on the federal bank, you have to make sure you're keeping yourselves positive and you're keeping yourselves currently invested. If, as you've seen the market in the last few days, the market is probably going to go down today because interest rates did not go down. However, that is a good buying opportunity for yourself. So we'll see you next time, guys, and thank you for tuning in.